The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. It's an open line today through till 1. Call 66 13 68. Text and WhatsApp on the same number, 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. And you're on the air. Lots of chat last week, back end of last week, talking about the digitally discarded, the people who either can't or don't want to get involved in the digital world, smartphones and what have you, and exactly what sort of efforts the government should make to get in touch with people. It was part of it was because of the MyCard thing, although that's not digital, but it is kind of pushing people out. The new smartphone has 4 or 5 years life before support for browser and app upgrades stops. So while the elderly may have an issue using tech, they need to realise that they have to keep forking out for new technology to bank online, says Gaz. And again, that may be a cultural thing in that some people buy things to last. Whereas nowadays, everything has inbuilt obsolescence. It's just not meant to last. Nothing that we buy nowadays is meant to last. A, because that's the way industry and commerce wants it, so that we have to renew something every few years. And B, things just aren't made as well as they used to be. A skilled tradesman said what Dewan said last week was correct. The government's bringing in unskilled labour to do maintenance work or allow companies to use unskilled labour. Those who are good skilled tradesmen are being priced out of work. Contracts aren't being policed to comply with legislation to save a few pounds. And perhaps no NI being paid due to self-employment. Well, the question of apprenticeships and skilling our own labour up is something that we've talked about many, many times. I have 2 close relatives in Canada, both in their 80s, and I've asked them about what's being said about assisted dying, and it's a complete exaggeration of the truth. This is designed to scare people. So it's not relevant to us to stick to the UK, compare us to nowhere else. It's achieved nothing but upset. Well, as it stands at the moment, Dick, and thanks for your comment, it's kind of immaterial because our assisted dying bill hasn't had royal assent. So it's not happening at the moment. And for that matter, Manx Care have said that they won't do it. So what's going to happen there? Who, if we do when we get the assisted dying legislation, who is going to perform the deed, as it were? David's first with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. And I just want to thank really Tim for coming on this morning. He's got a massive portfolio there. And what I was going to say was, I listened to Dr. Allison the other day. Magnanimous in his, can we call it defeat? I'm not quite sure really there, or the change of at the top there too. But you listen to Hooper and the former Minister for DOI, the one down south there, is how negative they are, which may be, I just thinking the other day there, why do we elect politicians, Andy? What was your opinion we elect politicians?
Well, to serve the public.
Yes. Now, we now have 2 politicians, don't we, Hooper and
Thomas.
Thomas has promised to do things which is not bad, but the former DOI minister there is to put the toys out of the pram now and is not letting them share with anybody. Which, if I was a resident of Portend, I'd be saying, wait a minute, I put you in there to do things for us. What have you been doing? What have you done? And the same for Hooper and Ramsey. Can you imagine if, well, I think half the government anyway are not doing anything in in the government system at the minute. I think the Chief Minister's touched on that. Mr. Cannon said things like the people who actually get involved and do things. In my time, Andy, just quickly there, is people used to have board meetings, and you'd have, and they do. They have a couple of members in their department, like an MLC for safety reasons, if anything went upstairs, a ray on it. But I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know who's going to get involved in Treasury or the people staying there. We know that Hooper's jacked in the DOI, but then he's jacked in the animal thing, the DEFA. What was that for? Was he not doing nothing at all? Is he just sitting there every day and just waiting for to Tuesdays and a Thursday to happen? I just think it's quite weird, Andy, at the minute there, where our politicians are not doing anything. Let's have a chat with the people who are politicians, who are actually doing stuff.
Okay, all right. Good to hear from you, David.
See you, boy.
Cheers now. 11 minutes past 12, and Howard joins us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. It's just something I was talking to you the other day about last week sometime, and I noticed over the weekend an individual, I can't repeat it, somebody came on. It's the organ transfer opt-out system, where we're joining a similar system to the UK. We had to wait until the legislation came through, and I don't know whether it is actually through or whether it's finalised, but this chap that came on, and he must have had a 2-minute section on the radio, and he rabbited on, throwing phone numbers and websites and various bits and pieces, and by the time he'd finished, to be honest, no harm to him, but I was even more confused at the end of his little talk. And I suggested the other day, Martin Perkins, he was involved with this, and he was on one of your programs over a year ago, and he explained in a manner that made life a lot easier and more comfortable for people. And the legislation hadn't gone through then, and he was waiting on it. There will be others within the organ donation family that will be equally as knowledgeable, but Martin puts it over quite nicely and was able to answer questions on your program. And I suggested last week that possibly, whether he's still involved, it's a personal issue if he wants to come onto your program and put people's minds at rest. Because there were quite a few questions even when I asked that about people saying different things. And this chapter came on, as I say, over the weekend, and it was in the Courier as well. And as I say, it gave a 2-minute spiel, and it didn't solve anything. So, are we part of the system? How do we go about getting within the system? How do we go about opting out? None of those things are covered, and it's a very important part of our lives and the person who's waiting for the donation. Because as I've just said to Chris, was a friend of mine, God love him, he's passed away now, but in his lifetime he had 2 kidneys given on 2 separate occasions, and in the end he was on dialysis for a long while. But he would have been gone many, many years ago only for the donation of some kind soul, because it's the best gift you can give in your life to someone else, and it can extend their life long years. So I don't know whether you want to or whether Manx Radio want to or otherwise, but I'm not telling you how to do your program, but it's just something that instead of having the usual harping on like myself, perhaps you can have somebody on that would give an interest and a vision and a helping hand to the organ donation.
Okay, well, no, I mean, you make a very powerful point, Howard, when you say can you imagine if it was a relative of yours who donated organs that helped people live in the future? I mean, that, as you say, that's a heck of a present to give somebody, isn't it?
It is. It's the best gift in the world. And you couldn't give a better gift. I know one chap who gave his kidney to his own, I think it was his daughter, or gave it to a member of his family. And that family member is still going now, although the chap that did it eventually, through nothing more than age, passed away. But even in his lifetime, he was able to help somebody that would have passed away long before their time. And the ability's there to do it. And because once we've passed away, we've absolutely no need for the bits and pieces. See, there's another one where would they do the harvesting here on the island? Would they take the person away to do the harvesting? Because, as I said the other day, I've seen 3 lots of surgical teams here, and each one deals with each different particular item.
Right.
But people think, well, if I'm over there, they've taken me over there in a deceased form, will I be brought back to the island?
Well, that's a very important question, Howard, isn't it? As you say, are the organs harvested on the Isle of Man, or is the body taken away and brought back? Because that's something that's worth knowing.
It is. Well, I know it's an obscure thing, but many years ago, I booked a plot up in Braddon Cemetery that's bought and paid for. I know it's a strange thing, but it's there, and I'd like me, or what's left of me, to come back and be buried in Braddon on the Isle of Man, where I was born and raised. And that's a very dear point to a lot of people.
Okay.
But I don't know whether you could make approaches or whatever, or I hope Martin, and he's a man that talks sense, and he can help people out and help the organ donation scheme.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate it, Howard, and we'll see if Martin wants to come on and chat about that. But appreciate the points you made today.
Lovely. Thank you, Andy. Take care.
Good to hear from you. Thank you, Howard. And John joins us now. Hi, John.
Hi, Andy. How are you, my
Very
boy?
well, thanks. Yes, yourself?
Well, that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Now, as you might know, I mean, I've been a diabetic type 2 diabetic for many years, and 3 years ago, I had to go on insulin. Now, what I discovered last week, following 3 years of what's only been described as hell with my diabetes, was that in 2022 in the UK, following NICE guidelines, the UK government introduced type 2 diabetes glucose monitors for people who were insulin dependent, right? Now, for a reason which I can only believe was one of cost, the Isle of Man government failed to follow suit, right? Now, I only discovered this last week when, following the concerns I had about my sugar levels, I went in to see the doctor and subsequently the diabetic nurse, and she lent me a glucose monitor. And I discovered that by controlling my glucose levels over the 3 years I've been on insulin, with finger prick testing, I was actually doing everything wrong. The problem with finger prick testing is you only get a blood sugar level at that moment, right? Now, since in the last few days when I've been using this monitor, I've been testing myself 40 times a day, right? Because it's a very simple process.
Right.
And what I've discovered is that I've been taking too much insulin, and as a result, and too much food, because my sugar levels were going up and down to up to 18 millimoles, which you start getting over 20 towards 30, you die. And when you get below 3 up to 2, you die. And in these past few days, I have managed, by changing the way that I eat, basically through the day and night, I've almost got my sugar levels within the balanced level that you need to get to replicate what your body does when it's working properly. Right? Now, effectively, I'm going back to see the diabetic nurse in the beginning of February. After these units last 15 days. Now, through that 15 days, I'm going to sort myself out. Now, I have been considering for a while to buy these. I mean, at the moment, the only option I had was to buy one myself. But the thing is that they cost about £100 a month to buy the little implants that you have to use. Each of them lasts 15 days, so you have to use 2 a month, basically. And I was getting round to that, but I thought I was doing everything right because my sugar levels that I was recording appeared to be right. Now, the thing is that how many other people on the island who are type 2 diabetic and insulin dependent are doing exactly what I was doing with fingerprint testing?
Who gave you the advice, John?
I got the advice. Well, that was it. When I was put on insulin, I went to the diabetic centre and I met them there, and they advised me how to manage my type 2 diabetes, with the fingerprint testing, which I'd used previously. I've had it for over 20 years, but I've controlled it mostly with diet and with medication. And I've generally kept my sugar levels fairly reasonable. As I've got older, I'm 79 now. And as I've got older, it's become more and more difficult. Now, over the last 3 years, with the edemas, which are the swellings in the back of the eye that you get because of excess sugar, to middle of last year, to middle to the end of last year, well, about 3/4 way last year, I was almost blind and had to stop driving. And if I hadn't have had, I eventually managed to, I made a nuisance of myself. And just before Christmas, I managed to get a cataract operation. And so I can at least read now. I couldn't read anymore. I couldn't work. But then to discover last week, as I did, that I could have, if I'd lived in the UK where I was born, effectively I would have had one of these monitors from 3 years ago, and I wouldn't have developed all these things. Now, clearly the government is doing what they're doing because effectively they think they're saving money. But over the last 3 years, I've had to go over to the UK, to Liverpool, several times a year. I'm going over again on the 6th of February. And I estimate that each of those visits costs between £1,000 and £2,000, right? Now, for the government to give me a monitor and maintain it would cost £1,000 or less a year. So what are they doing? How incompetent are they? I despair of it. I really do.
So,
I really do.
How's your health now, John?
Well, in the last few days, basically, up until last week, I thought I'm dying. My body was dying. I knew it was. I could feel it. I had no energy. I was aching. My joints were aching effectively. It was very hard to get out of bed in the morning, motivate myself, and I thought, God, I'm going. And I didn't want to, but I just couldn't help it, because of how things were. In the last few days, I feel like 20 years younger, just because I've started to control my sugar levels, and I'm purging my body now of sugar. I'm also fat. I'm about a stone overweight because of the way that I was managing my diabetes. And I thought I was doing everything right. And every visit I'd had, they say, "Oh, your levels that you're showing here are pretty good." The thing is, underlying that, the HbA1c levels, that is the amount of sugars that are encapsulated within the red blood cells, was very high. And that was what worried me consistently and worried the doctors. But it was only when I got this monitor last week that I understood exactly why it was happening. Now, why has the government done this? Why is this, this madness with the health service where you have a demand-led service that they're trying to run on a budget? This year, what is it, £9 million overspend? But it's not an overspend, it's a necessary spend to treat the people of the Isle of Man.
And how much did you say the machines cost?
They cost, the machines to buy initially about £50, but then to maintain them you have to buy these little inserts. They last 15 days,
right.
So you're effectively buying 2 a month, so about £100 a month, so about £1,200 a year, right? Now I live on my state pension, so that's a lot of money, and I mean, it's madness. But I mean, when you work out that I've been going for the last 3 years, been going 2 or 3 times a year over to Liverpool, but potentially a cost of £2,000, £1,000 to £2,000 a time, right? And so how many of that? It's potentially about £18,000 they spent, when they could have spent £3,000. And I mean, I've had to have a cataract operation, all sorts of other problems that I've got because of it, which would most likely eventually led to me either, going blind and then a massive additional cost on government. I mean, it's insane. What is wrong with them?
Well, John, I mean, first of all, we're on the way back. That's the important thing, is that you appear to have turned the corner.
Oh, yes, yeah. And, but how many other people are in the same position?
And that's the point I'm making. What's your advice to anybody who may be in the same position?
If anybody is type 2 diabetic and insulin dependent, and they've got worries about the way they're managing to control their diabetes with finger prick testing, they need to go to their doctors, or they either need to do one or two things. Ideally, they should if they can afford it, they should buy themselves one of these monitors, right? I don't know who sells them in the Isle of Man. I mean, I just been down to the chemist today, and they said, yes, they get them, because, I mean, type 1, in 2019, the UK government made them, gave them, basically gives, from 2019, the UK government gives them to people with type 1 diabetes, and the Ireland followed that in 2020. So they apparently do bring them in for diabetics who've got a prescription for the, for the inserts and everything. They actually mention it's quite hard to get hold of them, But I mean, what is wrong with government? It's madness. They are. But it's like, this is. I mean, I've been heavily involved with the whole mission since Jonathan Michaels was commissioned to report on the healthcare system. And the fact that the government failed to institute Manx care in the way that he recommended. And as you know, we've now got these problems where they don't know whether to get rid of it, to do something else, or to actually, as a final option, to institute Manx care as Jonathan Michaels recommended. Clearly what they need to do is get Jonathan Michaels over again, get him to analyse just exactly what rubbish the government has made of it, and get them to basically get him to advise how they can sort it out. It's going to cost money, but if they had followed his advice in the first place, we potentially would have had one of the best healthcare systems in the world if they had followed Jonathan Michaels' guidelines. Okay. But yet again, I mean, over the years that I've been doing what I do, sort of advocating for people with a learning disability, I've seen the government commission many off-island reports on various things related to people with a learning disability. And then what they've done is they've cherry-picked the reports to what they think they need to do. And it's been a nightmare at every level, And it's what's wrong with them. And the stupidity is we've got much of the expertise we have on the island, and yet they never take advantage of it.
Okay. All right, John, we appreciate it. Thanks for highlighting that. And as I say, the message has been sent out to other people who may be in your position. Thanks for calling today.
You're welcome, man. Take care.
OK, 28 minutes past 12. I'd like to raise a concern, says Stu, about the old lifeboat shed, which has been going to rack and ruin in Douglas for some time now. It's no longer in use. It's an absolute eyesore, and it reflects badly on the RNLI. An organisation of that size and standing, surely a charity with such resources could either restore it, repurpose it, or at the very least make it look presentable, paint it, do something. Leaving the lifeboat shed to decay helps nobody, and it does Douglas no favours. We're back to dingy Douglas again. I'm sure many Manx people feel the same way and would welcome some action, as well as this Douglas on Douglas Quayside. That's Stu with that point in today, and Mannin line is on till 1 today, open line.
Good afternoon. I have a question on the organ donation conversation at the moment. If in the event of your passing, does anyone check your will to see what is stated in your will as far as donation goes before they basically help themselves to parts of your body? Thanks very much. Hopefully you get to see this and get to ask a question. Thank you.
OK, good to hear from you.
The Mannin Line. Daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio from midday till 1, Monday to Friday.
Do you have an answer for him?
Herschel.co.im The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
Patricia Wilde Opticians is celebrating over 30 years of friendly, caring service in Farm Hill and Ramsey. Visit us for professional eye care with stress-free parking. Phone Patricia Wilde Opticians on 813 977.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
We make oil heating easy with our range of services. Whether it's our free smart tank monitoring systems or just our efficient all-island deliveries, Ellen Banning Fuels has it covered. Call us on 844 000 to find out more.
Is your shed roof in need of replacing and you don't want to pay a contractor? The solution is DIY Roof in a Box kits with full instructions and warranty from Rubber Roof Shop. For your roof in a box, call 496667.
Are you a small charity here on the Isle of Man? Are you looking for volunteers, hoping to raise awareness and chasing those crucial pounds and pennies to support your work? Well, Manx Radio can help. You could be our next 1 to 3 Charity of the Week. With daily on-air coverage, podcast and social media promotion, we can help support you and those you help. Just email the numbers 123@manxradio.com and listen out for the feature each weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. The Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
28 minutes before 1. Oh, it's Julian with us now. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Well, very well. Not so sure about this weather, though.
It's a bit grey, isn't it? At least it's not raining yet. Just interested just to hear what John said before. He mentioned his measurement, the HbA1c, which is the hemoglobin A1c. That's a key marker that measures the percentage of hemoglobin molecules that have glucose attached. This is all associated with pancreatic beta cells not producing insulin efficiently, inflammation, and also regulation of calcium. And guess what? A lot of these diabetes 2 patients have all in common: low vitamin D levels. And vitamin D is associated with increased efficiency in the pancreas producing insulin and the regulation of calcium. So, I don't know, I wonder if John is aware of his vitamin D levels, because that would be a good one to know, even if you just know if you're under or not.
Well, I know it's been, anybody who listens will know you're a big advocate of vitamin D and taking huge doses of vitamin D, but you can overdose vitamin D, can't you?
At 100,000 IUs plus, there is no peer-reviewed studies of anything that shows anything under 100,000 IUs. And even then, as soon as you curtail it, you go back to normal anyway. I mean, it's interesting to note that when they measure the Maasai tribe after a day in the sunshine, their vitamin D equivalent level goes up by 25,000 IUs after a day in the sun. So the idea that we've got 400 IU as the recommended daily allowance seems a bit odd when you think that people living in the sunshine regularly are getting 25,000 IUs a day just from the sunshine. 20 mile an hour. Yeah, totally support Tim Crookall. Does occur to me, though, there is something that needs to be done if we're going to be serious, because I think he said that he doesn't agree that the Isle of Man should be having 20 mile an hour zones forced on us, I think was what he said. But if we're going to do this properly, we need to make sure that any future DOI minister doesn't try this again, which means there are 2 Tynwald motions from 2020 and 2023 that need to be reversed, and also the traffic regulation orders need to be reversed. And also something else that became evident, and Chris Thomas spotted this some time ago in Tynwald, there is no definition on the Isle of Man of what a residential area is. Perhaps it's time that we had a definition of what a residential area is.
No definition?
That's what Chris Thomas said in Tynwald. The UK has this, but the Isle of Man doesn't. So you can basically say whatever you like, which is, you know, part of the reason why it seems so odd that one side of the road, pretty much the length of Colby, doesn't have any houses on it. The same with Ballafesson Road or Lazaire Road, or, you know, you can name loads of them where, you know, what is a residential road? Well, if you haven't got a clear definition of it, somebody can just, run roughshod over everyone, can't they? Because there's nothing to actually define it.
Well, we'll see. Well, obviously, Tim Crookall has got his work cut out.
Yeah, but I think it's important that if another minister with the same sort of ideas as the previous one, they could just run this again. So I think we need to remove those two motions that were done in 2020 and 2023 and get rid of those traffic regulation orders. Only other thing I was going to mention, talk about this halal meat production at the meat plant. I noticed that back in 2015, there was a Manx Radio News article titled "Meat Plant Halal Rumours Quashed." And the then business development manager, Leon Crompton-Jones, who I think is still working in the Isle of Man government at the hospital, I think, he stated, and his words were, "Any claims of ritual slaughter being performed without first stunning the animal is entirely fictitious." So quite a lot of Europe and the UK now allows stunning before halal slaughter. The Muslim population has relented on this and said, okay, you can stun them first. So when he says any claims of ritual slaughter being performed without first stunning the animal is entirely fictitious, well, were they stunning them and then doing it with the permission of the Muslim population? I don't know. Has it been going on? You just stun them first and then, you can do it.
I wonder. Well, somebody texted in just to say, is halal meat being produced over here now? I'm confused. It doesn't appear to have been labelled. That a question from Texter 505 said.
Well, it's funny you should talk about that, because I think that's very relevant, because I understand that fairly recently Tesco has been taking in Isle of Man meats, but it has to go across to the UK first for packaging and then brought back here. So I'm just wondering, because there was this large delay in Tesco's taking Manx meat, because everyone's been saying, why is it that there's no Manx meat on the island? Have Tesco's played a hand in this? Kind of forcing the issue by saying, well, we're only going to take your meat if it's halal, because, of course, they have a large demographic in the UK that they have to supply as well, and perhaps it's part of their well, they are one of the biggest DEI adherents in the UK or around the world. So I just wonder whether Tesco has a hand in this. I just wonder what the DEFRA Minister, Claire Barber, has to say about it as well. She seems quite quiet at the moment.
Maybe interesting. Maybe we'll try and find out, see what the situation is. Okay, all right, Julian. Sorry, go on.
All right, thanks, Andy.
All right, good to hear from you. Well, let's go back to the Infrastructure Minister on the 20 miles per hour speed limit. Tim Crookall, MHK, believes it shouldn't be imposed on people if they don't want it. Addressing his appointment following the sacking of Dr. Hayward from the role, Tim Crookall said he was surprised but delighted to be asked back. He said his department's looking at legislation around the 20 mile per hour scheme and hopes to have a clearer picture this time next week.
At the moment, just stop it all completely. There's been so much angst over this, the way it's been handled, whether it was starting to put polls in when things hadn't been agreed yet and all sorts of things, or just not listening to the public and local authorities. I've never known so much anger over something go on for so long, and I absolutely do think it's been badly handled by quite a lot of people. And I start this Friday, I think, is my first meeting with local authorities. I'm down at Castletown Friday afternoon, and I'm not only to talk about this, but lots of other things as well that they have issues with. But my first meeting is Friday with Castletown.
There was an implementation plan that went through Tynwald in May last year. You were among the members who voted in support of that. If you're not in support of it, why did you vote for it?
Something had to be done, and this goes right the way back to, it's a safety issue more than anything, and that's why it was done. And it was basically, the way it was put forward was it's an all or nothing, and it's easier to do nothing. Well, it's not easy to do nothing, it's easier to do all of it, so at least you know that the schools and places like hospitals, doctors, surgeries are safe and got that area around them. Going back 5 years or more, in Anne Corlett's case, Anne Corlett started this with her area in Douglas, around the 5 schools, so she wanted a 20 mile an hour area that encased those, and we're going to look at doing that and going back to what Mrs. Corlett wanted and her constituents wanted. I think 77% of those had a view on it, said they wanted this. Also, one of the other meetings I had was with Speaker Watterson and the former Minister, Dr Hayward, who wanted a 20 around the school. And before you know it, the whole of Port St Mary's made 20, when actually that wasn't the conversation that we had at the time. Now, I'm not saying that was their fault, but that's what they got, the whole of Port St Mary. The former minister was obviously happy enough with that because she didn't do anything about that. But again, I've had conversations with people. I've had, why did we get this? We didn't want it in the first place. So again, I'm a great believer in the towns and the villages belong to the local authorities. Speak to them, listen to them, and basically, if we can, give them what they want, not what we want to do.
That's the new Infrastructure Minister, Tim Crookall, MHK. And if you have any comment on what Mr Crookall had to say, by all means do get in touch. Text, email and WhatsApp.
Your favourite Thai flavours are almost back. Thai at the Horse and Plough reopens on the 4th of February, bringing authentic dishes, fresh ingredients and a warm welcome in the heart of Bradden. Book now. Call 626 060 to reserve your table.
Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
Craig's Heartstrong Foundation will be providing free heart screenings at Nobles Hospital on the 25th and 26th of April. Places will be available to book on Friday the 20th of February at 4 p.m. To book, visit craigheartstrongfoundation.co.uk or visit the Craig Heartstrong Foundation socials.
This advert is brought to you by Kell Properties.
For a wide range of wood-burning stoves and a complete installation service, visit The Snug in Ramsey. And we don't stop there. Kiln-dried firewood and full aftercare service, including chimney sweeps and maintenance. Call The Snug in Ramsey.
Back pain, neck pain, scoliosis, headaches, joint pain. At Align for Life Spine and Posture Clinic, we've been helping Manx residents for 16 years with our holistic, evidence-based care and therapies. Plus, we're open after work and Saturdays, making it even easier to see us. Visit alignforlife.com or find us on Facebook for more information. Align for Life, 16 years serving the community of the Isle of Man.
Here at Q-Plus, we're not just blue, we're green. From smart boilers to heat pumps, Q-Plus supply products from the leading brands in renewable energy for a cleaner, greener home. So call into Q-Plus on Snugborough Trading Estate, the island's largest independent plumbing and heating merchants for trade and retail. Or call 673 131 to talk to our friendly experts about the latest cost-effective products in home heating and find out what we can do for you at Q-Plus.
Tomorrow is Holocaust Memorial Day, and you can hear me in conversation with Heather Morris, screenwriter and author of best-selling book The Tattooist of Auschwitz.
He would say to me, I know I did a job just like everybody else.
Through her words, get to know Lale Sokolov and his remarkable story.
But while Peter was alive, he wasn't going to make it public.
It's one of survival, hope and, incredibly, a long-lasting love found and formed in a place where you would never think it was possible.
And just remember Lale's words, if you woke up in the morning, it's a good day.
That's tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Heather Morris in conversation. Listen live or catch up later at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
17 minutes before 1 Monday afternoon in the gloom and the wind and the rain, and Juan's with us now. Hi, Juan.
Hey, how was your weekend, Andy?
Well, I didn't get much sunbathing done, put it that way.
Yeah, you didn't. I was thinking about you yesterday while I was lying on the sun lounger.
Lovely.
Yeah. Just listening to a few points there that's just come up, but Tim Crookall this morning saying the right things. Like I said before, Tim was saying the right things about different parts last time he came into that position. I think one of the onlyest things then was the landlord's bill, and Tim was on that. But I just couldn't understand why he was taken away from DOI so quickly last time. So hopefully he'll get on top of this. And of course, this is down to the civil servants again, or the chief executives who are giving advice to the ministers. Like I've said on this program before, a minister changes his portfolio, and Monday he's got all new lines to say. It's like an actor in the play at the Gaiety. So it's down to a lot of the advice that the chief executives are giving, and the will of the ministers to challenge that and see if it actually has legs to stand on. When you go to these road shows and stuff, you get the chief executives plodding around. But it's not helpful when you get people such as Emily Curfew, who doesn't put a name badge on but just walks around listening. So she's not identifiable to the people to be able to ask questions to. And when, like, the former minister came on here and said that she wasn't prepared to bring her staff on this show to answer questions, well, who is going to answer them when you get difficult questions being asked by the likes of Julian? So, there's that to put out there. Beefgate. I just want to go on to Beefgate. Just a point there on what Julian was talking about with the halal. I believe that it doesn't have to be labelled if it's been stunned.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't actually have to be
labelled.
The
thing is that halal meat is produced here, but the key point is the animals are being stunned first, which is legal and standard. And there's no law that says meat has to be labelled as halal if it's prepared that way. The labelling is purely optional, Julian.
Well, yeah, I mean, but again, this is the thing, isn't it? Is what's being hidden from the people? It's not very transparent. It's like a little play on words. And has the meat actually got to be prayed over? I mean, halal meat, in the scope of things, has to have a Muslim who says, "In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful," and has to be prayed over the meat. So is this actually happening as well, Andy?
On the Isle of Man, I don't know, but I mean, that presumably happens. I mean, there are I think the majority, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure the majority of slaughterhouses in England certainly are halal.
Yeah, and I mean, my point again is why do you have to follow the consensus? And again, if people want to come to a country and actually integrate with that country, why do we have to change our way of life for them people? If people want to come here and integrate, fantastic, and that's great. But why should we change all our cultures to that? Just going on to Beefgate, and we've spoken with Claire Barber a few times over the years on here about the running of the meat plant and the efficiency of running it. But I'm looking at the news breaking last week about the excessive pay that's being given out to executives and companies involved with the meat plant, and the farmers have not been aware of this. So, again, after all these years, we've still got a big disconnect within the meat plant. And I have to ask, why is this not being run efficiently? And why are the farmers not more involved? It seems to work good as a cooperative within the milk industry.
That was exactly the point I was going to make. Finlay MacLeod has been a guy doing that job now for well over 20 years. The creamery runs absolutely fine. They've built up a big export trade, and it's a cooperative.
And this is the point, Andy. Why, if that's working so efficiently, can that not be transferred over to the meat plant? We've got great quality meat. I mean, there's lots of talk about cheap meat at the moment, and cows not being looked after properly. We've got great pastures here. We've got good farmers, and all this talk about farm to fork and road miles and everything like that. We have everything here to have good quality meat. So why is this not working effectively? Why can't they get a grip of this? And why are they putting the farmers on the back foot and not integrating them into the running of it? It beats me why this is not happening. Is it by design? Is this all to do eventually with the 2030 agenda of not having meat and dairy in the food chain? I don't know. But the question needs to be asked is why the people involved in the industry are not getting a say in the running of this, and people in running this efficiently. Needs to be looked at, where maybe Claire Barber can come on and say a few things.
Okay,
so,
well, we'll
cheers,
certainly invite Claire Barber on before the election. Thanks for calling today, Julian. Here's Eric with us now. Hi, Eric. Thanks for waiting.
Hi, Andy. I bet you thought you'd heard the last of me, but I'm afraid you haven't.
Well, I was hoping I hadn't, to be quite honest.
Well, what's Mannin and the mobility scooters, the paperwork is out now for where you can get on and off buses with Class 2 mobility scooters. And would you believe you cannot get on or off the bus at Douglas bus station? No, I've just been down and checked.
At the bus station?
The pavement from the bus station. The pavement there, when the bus pulls in, I had an appointment with the limb fitter this morning, so I went down there first. The bus level and the pavement are the same level, but you can't use it. If you want to get on a bus with a mobility scooter in Douglas,
right,
you have to go to Prospect Hill.
What?
And then if you want to
Prospect Hill?
Yes, the bus stop, which is by Santander.
Yeah,
Bank.
just by the Isle of Man Bank, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to go up there to get a bus, even though you can get on the Douglas bus station, but you're not allowed. And when you want to get off, if you're coming from Ramsey, you have to get off in Victoria Street and not the bus station. Now, to make it worse, in Ramsey, you can't get on the bus at the bus station. You have to go, if you want to get on to go to Douglas, you have to go to Queen's Drive. And when you're coming back from Douglas, you have to get off the bus at Stanley Mount. And they have a raised curb at Ramsey bus station. So what idiots wrote this? I know, unfortunately, the minister's gone, and there'll be a new minister who I've been on to this morning. He's going to get back to me. But at what purpose can there be that you cannot get on or off a bus at the bus station?
You would have thought that the bus station formed part of this, kind of a pivotal part of this, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean that's where you would go. I can see exactly what's going to happen here. You're going to be sitting waiting at Prospect Hill, and the bus is going to come up full of prams or a pram, and you're not going to be able to get on it. Whereas at least at the bus station, you would be able to sit there, you would be able to see if anybody was in front of you to get on the bus, if there was a pram or if there was another mobility scooter. So why have we got to go all the way up Prospect Hill to get a bus?
Well, surely this can't go on, Eric. Surely somebody knows that you've got to be able to use the bus station.
Well, the other thing, if you remember, I once said before, one of the reasons I wanted to be doing it was to be able to go to the NSC and use the facilities there. And the NSC, you cannot get on or off a bus at the NSC, even though they've already put raised curbs in both sides of the road.
And
who made the list?
And why is that? Why can't you get on and off?
Because it's not on the list. Somebody's gone and made a list of where you can get on and where you can get off. And I must ask the question. If you remember, they formed a committee, an accessibility committee, which I didn't even get an interview for, even though I'd applied to go on it. So how many times have this group met? How many times have they actually gone out and had a look at bus stops and bus stations? Are any of them disabled, or are they just going to pretend they're disabled just to see how a disabled person can get on a bus? I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life.
Well, obviously this is going to... Do you think they've got something against mobility scooters?
Well, it's looking that way, isn't it? And the other thing I can't decide now, is this day one of getting the buses and mobility scooters sorted, or is it 2,341 since I first asked about getting onto a bus? I gather it'll be 2,341 because the complaint has still not been settled.
Right. Okay. Well, the story goes on. Eric, we appreciate your call today. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, thank you.
6 minutes before 1. The only Manx meat I've seen in Tesco is meatballs, says Jay in Ramsey. Haven't seen any joints of lamb, beef or anything else. Perhaps they've sold out when I go. What do they have at Tesco in Ramsey then? And Manx Care and Medication, says Rosie, with reference to the gentleman discussing his diabetic medication and lack of support from Manx Care, this is not unusual, says Rosie. There are many medications licensed by NICE in the UK that aren't available on the Isle of Man. This is purely a financial decision by Manx Care, not one based on what is best for patients. It's not because there's no money, but Rosie said it's because of poor management and lack of foresight. And this comes in from Ruby, who just said, how can we guarantee that organs donated here will be transferred to the UK within the required time frame for transplant, given that off-island travel isn't always reliable due to the weather and other disruptions? Well, I think they have their own plane, Ruby. And it's not the responsibility, is it not the responsibility of the Department of Infrastructure, the Harbour Division, surely, to sort out the lifeboat house using the £4 million available from the RNLI? Given the recent RNLI celebrations marking its founding by Sir William Hillary, Douglas should be aiming to restore the RNLI lifeboat capital. Where are we? Oh, this is regard. Oh, housing and regeneration. This is it. Texter 004. I think the government should buy the large empty space for sale on the harbour in Ramsey. Once built on, the site could contain at least 300 flats, which would help with the housing crisis and keep more people living in Ramsey, which would help with the housing crisis. That would support the regeneration of Ramsey. The current state of the site makes the town look untidy and has done for a long time. It's similar to the old Summerland site and the former Lord Street bus station site. Well, the question of what the government should do with its brownfield sites is, well, it's a vexed question, isn't it? Do they sell them? Do they get somebody to come in, a developer to come in and do it? I agree with John regarding healthcare provision. All that seems to happen is endless spending to treat symptoms, which cost thousands and thousands. If the causes were treated instead, imagine how healthy and productive the population would be. A very simple example is a blocked ear. With no syringe available to clear the blockage, people walk around half deaf. This hinders their lives and working productivity. They may be on benefits, pensions or low wages and can't afford private fees. Who benefits from that? Is it really right to save a few minutes by not syringing an ear, says 963? Well, the Eargate things continue. We're back with another open line tomorrow. Thanks to Chris on the phones today.
WINT